Believe me, there wasn't a girl in New York who didn't dream of a fairy tale wedding at the Blackwood Manor, but they didn't know that the white silk of that wedding dress was actually a shroud waiting to consume them. Look at this absurd spectacle. 20 candidates, 20 rounded bellies, and at least half of them are made of silicone or stainless steel bowls. Madame Nora Blackwood held that golden slingshot like a hunter stalking prey. Snap! One belly burst with the scent of watermelon. The blonde on the left looked like she'd been shot at a picnic, red juice staining her expensive Louboutins. Cling! A metallic ring echoed from the next girl. Nora's massive magnet snatched the steel bowl hidden under the silk, a sound that turned the grand hall into a cheap kitchen. Nora smirked. The Blackwood line needs a legacy, not a baker. Hiss. A long, desperate sound of escaping air. A balloon punctured, deflating instantly, leaving the candidate standing there with a wasp waist and a face pale as death. Pathetic. They thought they were starring in Cinderella, but in reality, she was merely stress-testing the most durable vessels. As for me, I stood my ground, feeling the weight of my $5,000 silicone prosthetic and the simmering rage within. When she turned, squinting as she approached me, I suppressed a shiver down my spine. I wanted her to see that in this twisted game, I was the one behind the wheel. When she was close enough that I could almost hear her heartbeat, her withered hands, like iron talons, suddenly pressed hard into my side, a lethal move designed to make the abdominal muscles spasm and displace any fake padding. But she didn't know I had lined the silicone with a layer of high-pressure cooling gel. When she pressed, the gel shifted, creating a subtle vibration that perfectly mimicked the movement of a living soul. Without a flinch, I took her hand, pressed it deeper, and smiled. "The little prince seems to be very fond of his grandmother, madam." Nora froze. Her eyes wavered between suspicion and awe. 17 girls were thrown out in a chorus of sobs. Only I, the sharp-tongued Margot, and the fragile-looking Daisy remained. She led us deeper into the manor, where the scent of roses collided with the sterile, sharp sting of a laboratory. While Daisy admired the marble statues and Margot calculated the price of the chandeliers, I breathed a secret relief. You might think I'm here for the Blackwood fortune. Well, for my reason, we have to rewind, a whole lifetime to be exact. In my previous life, I was a surgeon with a pride as high as the sky. I received a distorted recording, a cry for help from my foolish, greedy sister Eden. Despite our differences, I rushed here to find her, but all I found was Eden's frail remains being discarded like trash. Before I could act, an agonizing pain seized my heart. The last thing I saw before the darkness took me was Nora's cold eyes and Arthur's spineless smile. Reborn, I am no longer a healer. I am the debt collector. I am here to find Eden and to tear the veil off the Blackwood's golden depravity. Look, Arthur Blackwood is descending the stairs, 27, tall, a face carved like a Greek god from the pages of Vogue. But don't let the masculinity fool you. Watch how he walks. With every step, his eyes dart to Nora, waiting for a nod of approval. Every breath is taken only after she signals it's allowed. A grown man, yet his soul is a lump of clay held firmly in his mother's palm. Nora reached out, and Arthur bowed low so she could adjust his collar. The way he basked in that touch was enough to make one sick. "Don't worry, my son. Your sustenance is ready. I have chosen the freshest offerings for you," Nora said while caressing Arthur's cheek, then turning to us. Arthur's eyes lit up like a loyal pup. "Yes, mother dearest." She kissed his forehead, her gaze sweeping over the three of us like she was inspecting livestock. I clenched my fists, a wave of revulsion rising within me. After that nauseating introduction, Nora led us to what she called the nutrition room for the first trial. Trust me, it looked more like a sterile operating theater than a kitchen. "To prove you can be the best provider for my grandson, do not disappoint me with the mediocre habits of the common folk. Look at this feast. No steak, no wine. Only plates of raw liver soaking in a thick white liquid, a cocktail of hormones and chemical catalysts. As a doctor, I knew the scent instantly. Consume this and your body becomes a biological factory, taxed until it withers and dies." Margot, turning green, "You're insane. This isn't food for humans." Nora said coldly, "Here, food is a tool, Margot. You consume to produce, not to enjoy. Eat or leave." Daisy, our green tea princess, proved why she was a contender. She swallowed the gray, viscous soup as if it were an elixir. Minutes later, her skin flushed deep red, sweat poured off her, and her heart hammered so hard I could see it dancing under her silk blouse. A hormone overdose. Nora looked at Daisy with the triumph of a farmer who had just found a prize heifer. But I had a different plan. She placed a dark green, viscous juice in front of me, an acidic catalyst to force the body to absorb the hormones. I smiled with fake gratitude and clumsily spilled the juice into my soup bowl. Sloane said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mother. I'm so clumsy." Nora frowned, but she didn't know that chemistry is my best friend. The reaction between the two liquids neutralized the toxins before I took a single sip. I finished the harmless mixture under Nora's astonished gaze. She smiled, thinking I had submitted, and turned to berate Margot. In that moment, I approached Arthur. He was trembling, staring blankly at the glass of white fluid his mother forced upon him for his health. I stealthily slid a small piece of ginger candy in his palm and winked. "This will make your mother's medicine less terrifying." Arthur looked at me with doubt, but the temptation was too great. He chewed the candy as if it were a forbidden treasure. I whispered, "It's our secret. Don't let her see." For the first time in 27 years, someone told him to lie to his mother. There is no bond stronger than a shared sin. I wasn't just giving him candy, I was giving him the seeds of rebellion. When Nora turned back, Arthur hid the wrapper in his pocket. A spark of complicity ignited. Nora thought she was in control, but she didn't know I had just planted the seed of adulthood in her son's infantile brain. Nora said, "A perfect Blackwood wife must be a great mother. Tonight you enter the source room. Show me if your maternal instinct is strong enough to soothe the child within Arthur." She called it the source room, but it was a Freudian nightmare. A magnificent room, but in the center sat a gargantuan golden crib, and there was Arthur, a 27-year-old man curled up in silk sheets, wearing satin pajamas and a high-end silicone pacifier. It was a sight so grotesque it made one want to lose their sight. Margot and Daisy stood frozen in horror, but Nora stroked the bars of the crib as if she were looking at an angel. Then Nora continued, "Arthur is in a sensitive phase. Whoever makes him sleep without my help wins this round." Daisy tried first. She approached the crib, singing a fake lullaby, trying to force a bottle into Arthur's mouth. Arthur thrashed, screaming like an abandoned child, searching for something real. Daisy panicked, pulling her dress lower, trying to use her body to soothe him. The result? Arthur bit the pacifier and threw it at her face. Nora shook her head in disapproval. Margot stayed out of it. She had realized no amount of money was worth being a wet nurse to a giant monster.
Then came my turn. I didn't rush to the crib. I used a secret weapon, an essential oil of wisteria and ginger, a scent that makes any monster feel safe. I began to move slowly around the crib, tapping the wood in a rhythmic pattern. It was a technique of rhythmic hypnosis. Sloane said in a low, mesmerizing voice, "Arthur, look into my eyes. Don't look at Nora." I leaned in, letting the scent on my neck overwhelm his senses. His aggression vanished, replaced by a terrifying dependency. He reached for me, eyes glazed by the rhythm and the scent. I slipped another piece of ginger candy into his mouth, a sharp wake-up call for his numbed senses. I placed a battered tin soldier into his hand. Sloane whispered, "Feel that? The spice is reality. This scent is life. She wants you in a pacifier. I want you to hold your own weapon. She's watching. Show her how good you can be." Under the influence of hypnosis and the scent, Arthur became absolutely submissive. He didn't just fall silent, he took my hand and smiled. For the first time, he ignored Nora's voice over the intercom. I caught a glimpse of Nora. She was frozen. The jealousy of a mother losing her precious treasure burned in her eyes. She had found a winner, but she had also realized she had invited the woman who would steal her son's heart. I didn't just face Nora's jealousy, I faced Margot's rage and Daisy's dazed shock. Margot lunged at me, her sharp nails digging into my skin. Margot said, "You think you're so clever, Sloane? A little country doctor using cheap tricks? Nora won't let you live. In this house, the winner is usually the first to die. While Margot spat venom, Daisy, our late-blooming snake, began her act. She approached with a fake, worried face, holding a silk handkerchief to clean the marks on my arm. Daisy chimed in, "Oh, Margot, you're hurting her. Sloane, let me help. I have this herbal oil. It will soothe the skin immediately." Daisy pretended to stop the fight, but her eyes darted toward Arthur's room. Her hands trembled with calculation. She intended to smear a potent irritant on my silk dress. She wanted Arthur to be burned when he next hugged me, making me the one who harmed the heir. But an unexpected turn happened. Margot, who had just wanted to claw my face off, suddenly slapped Daisy's hand away. She stared at the small vial on Daisy's palm with pure disgust. Margot said, "Get that filth away from her, you piece of trash." She turned to me. "And you, watch your back. I'm greedy, but I'm not a murderer. Don't touch that." Daisy stood there, eyes welling with tears, her lip trembling, a performance worthy of an Oscar. But beneath the mask, I saw the viper. Margot's sudden kindness stunned me. Who would have thought my rival would be the one to stop an assassination? But sorry, Margot. To expose Daisy's trap, I had to play along. I brushed Margot aside, putting on the face of a naive older sister. Sloane said in a hurry, "Come now, Margot. She's just trying to be kind. Daisy, thank you. Let me try it." Daisy's smile of triumph was gone in a flash. She expected me to be burned. She expected Arthur to go mad. But she forgot I am a doctor. I had already applied a protective barrier to my skin. The next morning, the manor was suffocating. Daisy appeared like a victor, her eyes gleaming with malice. She was counting the seconds until I was thrown out. But, surprise, biatch! When Arthur stepped down, instead of an allergic mess, he was radiant. He ignored Daisy, went straight to me, and took my hand with a dependency deeper than ever. Daisy said, stunned, "But how? Sloane, you used the oil." Sloane said, "It was so wonderful, Daisy, that I gave it to Madame Nora last night as a youth elixir." Daisy turned white as she saw Nora enter, wearing a high-collared silk scarf to hide her swollen, irritated neck. Nora couldn't punish me because she couldn't admit she had stolen an applicant's skincare. Her rage exploded, and she needed a scapegoat. Sensing her doom, Daisy's green tea instinct took over. She fell to her knees, pointing at Margot. Daisy said, "Mother, it wasn't me. It was Margot. I saw her swap the vials on Sloane's table. She wanted to hurt you and Sloane to take Arthur for herself." A filthy betrayal. Margot was speechless. Nora didn't care about the truth. She just needed to eliminate the disobedient. Nora said, "So it was you, Margot. I always suspected your vulgarity. Guards, take her to the West Wing. The Blackwood family has no room for a venomous heart." I watched as Margot was dragged away, her screams fading into the depths of the West Wing. Daisy sat there wiping her tears, thinking she had won, but she forgot. Nora Blackwood never forgives those who bring toxins into her house. Nora said, "Daisy, you're right. Loyalty must be rewarded. From now on, you are my overseer. Go to the West Wing and learn how to serve correctly." Daisy left with a triumphant smirk. Nora approached me, adjusting my collar. Nora said, "Sloane, you are special. Don't let pity stain your blood. Tonight, stay with Arthur. Don't disappoint me like those other fools." She left me in a room smelling of amber and threats, but she was wrong. She thought keeping me with Arthur was a way to monitor me. In reality, she was giving me the chance to finish replacing the mother in the heart of her 27-year-old child. That night, while Arthur was under my hypnotic sleep, I slipped out. I had to find Margot. The cold of the basement seeped into my bones. Under the pale fluorescent lights of a morgue-like chamber, my breath caught. Look at Daisy. Our green tea princess was slumped in the first mechanical chair. Stainless steel tubes were connected to her, siphoning the vitality out of her body. Her eyes were blank. Her rosy skin turned to ash. She had no consciousness, no ambition left, just an empty husk being drained by the rhythmic thrum of the machine. That was the price of her betrayal, becoming the sustenance for the family she craved to join. But when I reached the second chair, my heart stopped. Margot was there. The straps were tight, but unlike Daisy, Margot was gritting her teeth, her sweat pouring off her eyes bloodshot but wide with consciousness. Margot said, wheezing, "Sloane, that girl, she swallowed all the hormone soup thinking it was a privilege. I vomited mine after you winked at me." I rushed to stop the system, but my hand froze when I saw a tattered name tag on the floor, Eden Holloway. My sister had sat exactly where Margot was. My sister couldn't resist. A cold rage seized me, a fire that wanted to burn this entire manor to the ground. Nora, clapping slowly from the shadows, said, "Welcome to the final trial, my dear daughters. Don't worry, if your essence is nutritious enough for my little Arthur, you shall officially become the mistress of this house." Nora descended, regal and lethal. Beside her was Arthur. He looked at me, his hands clenched, his face contorted between the habit of obedience and the awakening I had planted.
She revealed the secret with a pride that made me want to vomit. This wasn't a wedding, it was a selection of high-grade livestock. Nora didn't want a daughter-in-law, she wanted a life support system to keep her son a perpetual child, forever dependent on her. Nora pushed Arthur toward me. She wanted to use the son I had reprogrammed to punish me. Arthur stepped closer, his eyes bloodshot, looking at me, then at the machine draining Daisy. Sloane said, "Arthur, look at that machine. That isn't food, it's going to hurt me. Look closely. Who am I? I am your mother now, aren't I?" I bet everything on the psychological foundation I had built. Nora screamed in rage, "Don't listen to her! Press the button, Arthur, and you will have everything you want!" She was losing control of her perfect toy. Arthur stood between us. He looked at the console, then at Daisy, drained to the bone. I saw the struggle in his every muscle. On one side was the primal fear, on the other, the spice of ginger and the scent of freedom I had fed him. Nora lunged, intending to activate the siphon on Margot and me herself, but she underestimated a child pushed to the edge. Arthur didn't punish me. He used all his strength to shove Nora away. She stumbled, her designer heels slipping on the floor slick with chemicals. Crack! Spark! In her panic, Nora fell directly into the harvesting zone. The thermal sensors, calibrated to detect sustenance, immediately locked on to Nora. Automatic restraints lunged out like octopus tentacles, shackling her wrists and body. Nora said, "Arthur, save me! It's too tight! Arthur, turn it off!" The machine began to groan, the stainless steel needles descending. Nora looked at her son with a final, pleading gaze, but Arthur stood there, his face becoming terrifyingly blank. He didn't look at her as a son, he looked at her as one looks at a broken toy. He remembered what she had taught him. Things that are filthy must not be touched, things that are broken must be discarded. Arthur said in a flat, cold voice, "You said you were my source of life, but now you're so filthy. You're melting, Mother." Arthur stepped back and slowly pressed the lock button on the console. The heavy acoustic door slid shut, swallowing Nora Blackwood's screams into the darkness of the very empire she had built. She was drained by the very technology she used to harvest others. Arthur said with a crazed smile, "See, Mother, I did what you said. I didn't touch the filth. You're very filthy now." I rushed to break Margot's chains. She collapsed into my arms, trembling, unable to look away from Nora's fate. As for Daisy, it was too late. That was the price of blind ambition. I took Margot's hand and led her out. We stepped through puddles of white fluid and chemicals towards the exit. Arthur stayed behind in the pale fluorescent light, his mouth twitching, hands shaking. I sighed and took him with us out of the darkness, leaving the Blackwood Manor behind like a gilded tomb. But even after the cord was cut, Arthur could never learn to be a man. For a soul imprisoned for 27 years, freedom wasn't a gift, it was a poison. He wouldn't eat real food, he only huddled on the floor, clutching an empty bottle, whispering the things Nora used to say. That is the price for those who live as parasites. I removed the silicone belly and threw it into the fireplace. My sister Eden could finally rest in peace.